Hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar, The Impact of Critical Suppliers and Subcontractors on Medical Device Market Approvals. My name is Ihab Amin, and I'm the Production Department Director here at LNEG Med North America. Today's webinar broadcast is an attempt to shed some light on an important part of your business, subcontracting. There is no doubt that in today's increasingly competitive economy, the advantages of subcontracting in saving time and costs are enticing. However, like in every business transaction, there is a risk, and with today's increasing regulatory and quality requirements, subcontracting takes a focus of its own. During the course of this webinar, we will be gathering your questions and will answer them accordingly, so feel free to type them in the Q&A box that you see on your screen. You can also email us with follow-up questions using the address on the very last slide. Indeed, there are many angles and criteria to consider in supplier selection and evaluation. However, the angle of our webinar will be the certification process and how it impacts and is impacted by the critical suppliers. Today, we'll be looking at how critical suppliers are identified in some of the main regulatory contexts, how they impact the certification process, and what is the role of the legal manufacturer when it comes to controlling these relationships. We will also give some insight on how subcontractors are evaluated along the process of certification. Now let's take a look at what we are going to cover today. First of all, we will be looking at definitions. We will also look at our stance on critical suppliers and subcontractors. Then, we will look at the impact of critical suppliers on a legal manufacturer's certification process. And finally, the role of the legal manufacturer and some general requirements legal manufacturers need to consider. Throughout the slides, we will refer to suppliers and subcontractors interchangeably. And with that, let's get started. Let's take a look first at some definitions. Looking at Health Canada's two guidance documents, the GD210 and the GD211, we see that they mention the criteria leading to an evaluation of the sufficient objective evidence showing the competency of a supplier to undertake the subcontracted activities relative to the medical device. This evaluation is key in defining the need or not to audit the suppliers or subcontractors as part of the legal manufacturer's certification process. Note that the on-site audits of the critical subcontractors are not to be construed as a second-party audit on behalf of the legal manufacturer. We move on to a second take on critical suppliers, that of the EU Commission in its recommendation of September of 2013. The trend in definition is becoming clear. Those suppliers that are in charge of activities critical to the conformity of the device will be the focus in conformity assessments. The verification of compliance by notified bodies includes performing the regular and unannounced audits for the legal manufacturer and, when required, the critical suppliers or subcontractors. Moreover, legal manufacturers need to consider the complete supply chain when demonstrating control, as critical suppliers can be found further down the contractual chain. Legal manufacturers have to be mindful of their obligation to control the quality of services or components regardless of the supply chain length. This handbook guidance document for notified bodies focuses on auditing suppliers of medical device manufacturers. The document provides information on criteria, objectives, reporting, and examples of objective evidence notified bodies take into consideration when auditing critical suppliers as part of the legal manufacturer's certification process. Appendix 2 of this document provides insight on the supplier agreements and the provisions to be included. In any case, evidence of compliance of all certification scope activities remain the responsibility of the legal manufacturer and cannot be delegated to the supply chain. From the few definitions we just went over, one can see that the main criterion is the safety and performance of the medical device. This begs the question of why is it essential for a legal manufacturer to identify the critical suppliers? The answer that the impact of critical supplier on the certification process can be substantial. The more information provided ahead of the certification process, the more predictable timelines an audit organization can be. So let's take a look at how we evaluate critical suppliers or subcontractors and include them in the certification process. Systematic evaluation. This evaluation is performed by conducting an on-site audit of the critical subcontractor in order to assess the legal manufacturer's ability to efficiently manage the critical subcontractor, ensure that the purchased product or service complies with the specified requirements, and to evaluate the ability of the critical supplier to provide a product or service that systematically complies with the requirements laid out by the legal manufacturer in the corresponding specifications, including requirements concerning its quality system. The on-site audit can include annual surveillances, renewals, and unannounced audits. Certification status. Now, should the subcontractor possess a valid QMS ISO 13485 certification, which covers the subcontracted activity and is issued by a notified body or CMDCAS registrar recognized by Health Canada in the framework of the CMDCAS program, an on-site audit may not be necessary. The evaluation of the subcontracted activity is conducted during the audit of the legal manufacturer, specifically while auditing the purchasing sub-process. However, the need for the on-site audit of the subcontractor may arise from the results of the audit of the legal manufacturer. Now, for non-certified critical subcontractors, the need to audit and frequency of auditing those entities are assessed based on criticality of the task subcontracted, complexity of the task subcontracted, and the control implemented by the legal manufacturer and demonstration of such. Since there is an impact on the audit duration, audit planning, and certification process timeline, legal manufacturers need to consider the likelihood of on-site audits of suppliers in their subcontractor agreements, allowing access for the auditors. Any nonconformities arising from the subcontractor audits are to be treated as part of the legal manufacturer's routine certification process. Now, if we map the definitions and requirements, we can map the impact on the legal manufacturer's certification process. Here we look at 3 points of impact a critical supplier and its ISO 13485 certification status has on the legal manufacturer's certification process. As you can see, focusing solely on the short-term cost can make legal manufacturers overlook some strategic suppliers, and even potentially expose them to supply interruptions, negative audit results due to supplier actions, and increasing costs. We can conclude from this comparison that supplier selection is a long-term investment that needs to be supported with a strong supply chain management system. This ensures continuous improvement and added value. Note that the ISO 13485 certification, taken into account, includes certifications by notified bodies or a CMDCAS registrar recognized by Health Canada in the framework of the CMDCAS program. So what is the role of the legal manufacturer aside from carefully selecting and controlling its critical suppliers? Let's take a look at the 4 R's. Legal manufacturers need to research the impact of critical suppliers on their audits organization. They also need to review their subcontractor agreements and possibly update them with unannounced audit requirements, procedures, and roles and responsibilities. As the regulations and requirements are in constant change, this will be a necessity to avoid compliance issues down the road. Legal manufacturers need to make sure that their supplier management process and selection procedures integrate the risk-based approach within the regulatory requirements. And again, the emphasis on the risk management is on the rise. Finally, legal manufacturers need to inform their notified bodies or CMDCAS registrar of any changes in critical subcontractors to avoid unnecessary approval interruptions and certification process delays. I would like to stress the importance for the legal manufacturer to consider all applicable regulations and quality requirements, and that it is equally important from a business perspective for the subcontractors to understand the increasing level of scrutiny and demand on the quality of the services they provide. Legal manufacturers need to demonstrate control over the subcontract activities. They also need to have a living quality agreement that is adaptable to the change in specifications and requirements. Legal manufacturers need to monitor the quality management system of their critical suppliers and make sure it covers the activities subcontracted. To allow better cooperation and understanding between the supplier and the legal manufacturer, feel free to share the link of this webinar with your suppliers and invite them to ask their questions. Before we end this session, I would like to note that LNE GMAT can assist you on this critical topic by providing competitive solutions to certify your critical subcontractors' quality management system. We can also provide you with the local auditing resources for your global supply chain network and provide advanced verification of critical subcontractors to give you a clear certification process. We can also extend our newsletter and webinar program to any subcontractors of yours, so feel free to provide their contact information. Thanks for your attention. Please send us any questions using the email on this slide. You can also email your certification project manager directly for any questions or updates you have on this topic. We will be happy to answer your needs. Have a great day.